So, we know the number devil often visits you in dreams. Has he ever visited you on occasions where you were not sleeping at night, though? For example, having an afternoon nap on the weekend?
I have actually, a dream occasionally when I nap long enough, but only once has he ever visited me during the daytime.
Really? And how did that go?
Well, it began with the number devil introducing this dream session as the 6.5 plus I to the fourth night.
But you said that this was during the daytime. Why did he call it a night?
Well, I asked the same question. He ignored me though, and we moved on to something called imaginary numbers and complex numbers.
Imaginary numbers? That doesn't sound right.
Well, imaginary numbers aren't supposed to sound right, just like how afternoon naps are not nighttime dreams. But then he asked me a peculiar question. What is the square root of -2?
Well, you can't find that, right? Since it's a negative number?
I said the same thing, but then he told me that I was overthinking it. He told me to take the square root of 2 first, and I said that it was a non-terminating decimal, so it's just the square root of 2. And then he told me to make something up so it would be negative.
What the heck?
Right? I asked him how it all worked, but you know him. He couldn't just give me a straight answer. He had to make it so complex.
How so?
Well, I seem to remember it was raining, and there were umbrellas involved. What in the world?
It's a pond, Robert. Come now, surely you could have figured that out.
I realized that, but what are we doing here?
New concept. It's called imagination.
I know what imagination is. I'm not dumb.
Ah, but do you know how it applies to numbers? For example, what is the square root of -2?
Well, that's a negative number. You can't take the square root of a negative number.
Now that's where you're wrong. First, take the square root of a +2.
It's the square root of 2, because it's a decimal that doesn't end.
Correct. Now use that imagination of yours to make it negative.
What does that mean? How do I do that? What do you want me to do? Put an I in it?
Yes, exactly. Here, solve this.
Okay, so separate them, right? It would be the square root of 64 times the square root of -1. Then this is 8, and that one is I. So the answer is 8I?
Yep. Now, I think we need an umbrella. This is the number system.
Okay, it makes sense so far. So imaginary numbers are just different forms of I. So 8I is a complex number.
Precisely. Let's do something a little bit more complicated. Factor this.
Easy.
Okay, now what if I do this?
This is easy to... Oh, wait. If I is the square root of -1, then I squared is -1. So if I do this... There we go.
Very good, Robert. Wow, imaginary numbers. It seems the number devil is always introducing new and crazy concepts to you. How can you apply such a crazy concept in the real world, though?
Well, it might sound crazy, but in alternating current circuits, you know, Nikola Tesla invented that. Well, yeah, the impedance, or the amount by which the circuit resists the flow of electricity, is often measured in complex numbers.
Huh, that sounds kind of complicated. I liked how you were able to figure out how I squared was equal to -1. What is I to the 101st power?
Well, the pattern is in 4s, so it goes I is the square root of -1, I squared is -1, I cubed is I, and I to the 4th is 1, so the 101st power would be back to the first power, so that ends up being I.
That's amazing. Well, I think that's all the time we have for now. Robert, I'd like to thank you for being here, and thank you for everyone watching. Have a good day. Bye!
Bye!